I'm so excited today to be able to talk with Tara from Living on a Dime. She's actually somebody that I used to listen to all of the time when I had a spinal cord injury and I was stuck on the couch. And just the tips that she teaches brought me so much hope and peace during the time. Literally laying on the couch for 3 months while I couldn't walk. I had a wheelchair and I was just trying to bring in all of the information that I could to help bring more peace into our situation. And you were one of those people that really helped us through that time. And so this was really exciting when we connected and we can now be on each other's channels and teach our followers new tips.
Well,
So
thank you for having me.
I would love for you to introduce yourself and kind of talk about how many years you've been on YouTube and all the things.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm Tara from Living on a Dime to Grow Rich. We used to be living on a dime, but we had to change it to Grow Rich because we had a problem with people only living on a dime and not understanding the point of living on a dime is so that you can be rich later and you can have the nice house, you can have the car you want, but you live frugally so that you can pay cash for all those things. And we are 100% debt free. We don't owe anybody anything. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's
Mhm.
absolutely glorious. So, like, now when my husband is laid up for 3 months, with a knee surgery and can't, do anything, we don't have to worry about paying the bills. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about those things because he can't get out and go to work. And so, that's kinda how I got started. Now, we've been on YouTube since, 2007.
Yeah.
So almost 20 years we've been on YouTube. I started this business 30 years next year. So it's 29 years this year that we actually started. It wasn't called Living on a Dime back then, but we started my original book and everything back then. So yeah, it's been almost 30 years.
That is so exciting. When we were in college and newlyweds, all the things I was trying to think of teaching a course or something for other new families because we weren't fighting. We've never fought and stuff. But it was before YouTube. It was before anything, and that kind of nugget of a calling on my heart just kind of sat there for a long time. And then 5 years ago is when I started my YouTube channel and Instagram and ended up going viral because of strawberries and had a TED talk and then the media around the world. So it's been a really big whirlwind.
It's funny the things that go viral, isn't it?
Yeah.
The videos that I think the least of. As a matter of fact, our number one viral video was my mom doing how to fold a fitted sheet, and Mike and I didn't wanna do that video. We were like, "Forget this, why are we doing this video?" And she's got, I think, almost 30 million views on that now, and woulda never dreamed. So when I saw your strawberry tip, I was like, "Oh, I get it. I know why she went viral. I get it."
I love that it was truly something that we have been doing for a long time too, and not just something that I was copying from somebody else.
Yeah.
Our produce tips that I teach are legit. We only go grocery shopping once a month and we have
Mhm.
fresh produce the entire time with zero food waste.
Yeah, and that's what we did when we lived in Idaho. We were 70 miles from the grocery store each way, and we could only go grocery shopping once a month, and so we did the same thing, that you talk about, and, I put my milk in the freezer, and I bought it in half gallons so that it would fit in my freezer easier, which people would say, "Oh, well, that doesn't really save money to buy it by the half gallon instead of the full gallon." Well, it does when you're not making a 70-mile trip into town to go get groceries.
Yeah.
You have to think of it in those terms, and I would only buy it when it was on sale. So we tried to time our grocery shopping when it would just be on sale for that week,
Mhm.
because we would, even though it was 70 miles away, we would still get the grocery ads. And so it's kind of the same, it's the same thing. I didn't do so much with fresh fruits and vegetables. I would do frozen is what I would do. But, we didn't have the internet back then too. It was just getting started. So that's why I love those tips. I'm a big tip person. I love all the tips.
Well, I actually grew up on a 200-acre farm and been in the farming community my whole entire life. And so knowing when seasons are for produce and that kind of stuff just comes really naturally to me. But when we were growing up, we would still just go get anything from the store that we needed to go get from the store. So if it wasn't like cattle that we raised or produce that we were raising, then everything else just came to the store. And my grandma liked to go to the store like almost every day, like it was her social outing, kind of thing. And so we really didn't have a big pantry of the other items. And so it was really listening to you a lot where I learned how to rotate out some of those items and to make sure that we had what we needed, on hand that we get through payday and, not worrying about a really long, not worrying about a really long time to, have things in the house, and then the pandemic happened and all the things. And I was glad that I had those tips to know that we have food security in our house and we could get through a few more days if we needed to go to the grocery store or not go to the grocery store.
Well, and I was telling you earlier, I said, I cannot fathom. It's not something that has ever crossed my mind that we had to wait for a paycheck to buy groceries. I have never, ever waited for a paycheck to buy groceries because I do my system where I cook from my pantry. I don't, this is where I'm totally dyslexic with the whole world. I always joke around that I have lexdysia because I always get my left and rights and everything mixed up, and I almost wonder if maybe I think I do have a form of that, and I don't. This sounds crazy, but I don't wonder if maybe because of that I flipped it around and I don't menu plan.
I don't either.
I pantry plan. So I don't make a menu every week and say, oh, this is what we're going to eat this week and I'm going to go grocery shopping. No, I'm always just refilling my pantry with ingredients.
Mhm.
And then I cook around what is in my freezer or fridge or what's outside. Like right now, I have lettuce growing. So we're going to be eating lettuce for a lot of salads now. And so I just look at what I need to use up. What's on sale if I happen to be going grocery shopping that's fresh that I would need to use up, like strawberries, blueberries, whatever. And that's how I cook. And people people have a hard time adjusting to that, but if you do it that way, you save a lot of money. Even now, it's my husband, a college-age son, a high school son, and I that I buy groceries for, and I still only spend $400 a month. And that's buying. I have, chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, so I have, been having a really rough time the last, several months to a year, and that's including a lot of things like chicken nuggets and Hot Pockets just to get us through when we can, and so if you can fill your pantry and my pantry my pantry is excessive, I understand that. But part of that is because I use it for my business. I have Living on a Dime, but then I also have a recipe channel, Super Easy Recipes, that I put out cooking videos every day. So I don't wanna be running to the grocery store because I forgot something. So I just restock. I have a dedicated room in my basement. It's just a little closet thing, and I just put shelves in there, and so I just refill when things are on sale. And so that really helps to keep my grocery budget down because I try not to buy anything regular price, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we live in Wyoming now, and our last house was in the big city. So it was a lot easier to find deals. Grocery stores were competing. Here in Wyoming, there's a family grocery store, Albertsons, and Walmart. That's all I got, unless I want to drive 2 hours.
Right.
And so here it's less, but it's still the same principle. When the family grocery store has butter for $1.99 or $2.99, depending on, what time of year it is, I'll stock up my freezer for 6 months or a year. Then I don't have to worry about putting butter on the list. So it works for me because I don't want to have to go to the grocery store all the time, every time I forget something, or even once a week. I just do not have the physical energy to do it. So that's partly why I do the pantry method. And that's how I save a lot of money on groceries is just buying stuff on sale.
So we actually have similar stories there. I have reflective sympathetic dystrophy that attacks my joints.
Mhm.
And for 2 years, I couldn't open up my hands when my kids were little, and I've had spinal injuries because of it. all the things. But depending day on day, it depends on how much energy I have or how far I can make it through the day, and so to have freezer meals and things ready to go is, like, the only thing that can get me through a week sometimes. But we used to live in a house over in the Seattle area where we could see Costco from our front window, and there was a Walmart, Target, what else was there? Walmart, Target, Marshalls, Safeway, like, all of the stores were within 2 stoplights of our house, and we really had to train ourselves not to go to the grocery store because we were running in to grab one thing, and then my husband was grabbing a couple extra things, and we were realizing that it was killing our budget. But we wanted to move over here to Eastern Washington, where we did in September, and it's a really rural area. It's a farming community, but it takes me 45 minutes now to get to Costco. And so that grocery shopping trip is a big deal to be able
Yeah.
to go grocery shopping. We have Winco here, which I think is pretty similar to Aldi in other
Mhm.
parts of the country. But so we go to the farm stand if they're open, and then Costco and Winco, and that's just once a month. And then we have all the things that we need for the month.
Yeah, people think, "Oh, I'm gonna go move to the country and save all this money." Actually, living in the country, I've lived, let's see, 4 times in the country, and let's see, 3 of those, I had no less than 45 to 50 miles was my shortest drive to the grocery store, and so it gets really expensive really fast. If you don't start planning really carefully and use what you have on hand, you're gonna be up a creek, you know? It's gonna be hard.
I really found over the years I've limited the ingredients that we bring into the house. So I'm able to make a bunch of different recipes with the same ingredients, and then it doesn't take up as much space too. So I'm like trying to rotate out those ingredients and use them up. And then I know that we have food security in the house and I don't have to worry about it. And our grocery budget is pretty low. It's $135 per person, and there's only 2 of us that live here now. So our grocery budget is $270. But because of my medical stuff and some allergies, we're mostly organic and single ingredient items. So I'm buying, higher quality things for $135 per person and just really focusing on having zero food waste.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing that people don't understand is wasting food is 30 to 40% of a lot of people's grocery bills, and they don't even have a clue they're throwing away that much food. They have no clue they're throwing away that much food. Like, they'll take a rotisserie chicken and they'll eat it and they'll think, "Oh, that's done." I get at least 3 meals. Depending on the size, I can get 4 to 5 meals out of it. And people are like, "Well, how in the world do you do that?" Well, you eat the chicken by itself the first night. Then the second night, you can have, like, chicken and noodles. Then the third night, I'll, boil the bones the next day, and then I'll have green chili, which is Mexican food. I don't know if you guys have it back there, but it's a big thing in Colorado where we just
We're here too. We're in the
the
farming community.
okay, so we'll have green chili one night, and then another night, we'll have chicken and noodle soup.
Mhm.
And so I plan around what I need to use up. So if I make a roast, I'm not just people need to get out of their mind that they're cooking for that meal and instead get in their mind, I am pre-cooking for the next day. Everybody says, "Oh, let's cook like grandma." Well, what grandma did was she made a roast on day 1. Day 2, she made beef and noodles. Day 3, she made, shepherd's pie. And so, and the same potatoes that she put in with the roast on the first day, she made for the topping for the shepherd's pie. And, grandma did not despite what people think, my grandma was a farm, grandma also, and she was never home to cook. She was never home to cook. She was always out helping with the farm or working one of her 3 jobs to keep the farm going.
Right.
She was never
Hot
home.
wife.
Yeah, she was never home, and so she would put a roast and potatoes in at 5 o'clock in the morning and come home at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and that's what they would have for dinner then. And so, I think we do need to get back to the old way of cooking But I think we're so far removed now that people don't understand it's not a lot of work to sit in the kitchen. Like you, I don't know how long you spend, but I really rarely spend more than 15 to 20 minutes cooking dinner. If I spend 20 minutes, that's a long dinner for me because by the time 5 o'clock comes around, I just do not have it in me
Right.
to do one more thing. It's all I can do to keep standing just to finish dinner. So 15 to 20 minutes is about what I do. And so if people would use less ingredients, stop making the recipe so complicated, and just get in and do it, it would take less time than takeout. I was actually thinking about doing a video on me going and getting dinner at the takeout, or I mean at the fast food versus cooking it at home and see which was actually faster. I think I would do it at home a lot faster than it would take me, even if I was on my way home from somewhere to pick it up from, a fast food joint. But
You would
peop
feel better later too because you're using better ingredients. Wait,
and
get it?
what people don't understand is when you cook from your pantry, like last night, I was dead. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do? It's like, wait a minute, I got canned chicken. Okay, I'm gonna open up some canned chicken and we're gonna make tacos and nacho salad. Because I only had so many taco shells, but I had some crumbles of corn chips in the pantry to use up, and I was like, "Okay, that's gonna be our dinner tonight." But everybody loved it. It was really tasty, and it worked, and it took me less than 10 minutes to make dinner.
That's funny. We had salsa chicken last night on corn tortillas. So we had 6 tortillas left, the small corn ones, and I normally don't eat the same things during the same week. I rotate things out of my freezer. So I was able to pull a container of cooked salsa chicken out of the freezer. Like around 4 o'clock, I put it in some water in the sink. It was ready by dinner time. And then I just warmed it up. And so those same kind of things that we are both doing is making sure that I always make sure that I have cooked protein in the freezer and then I rotate those things out. But
Mhm.
yeah, using a roast 4 different ways for 4 different meals, all the things. And then when I'm washing produce, that night, I'm normally also making chicken stock in the Instapot. So I have that going and the produce is washing and then I know it stays fresh when it's put away right. And,
Yep.
it's just
Yeah.
learning those skills or being able to substitute things. Like, I feel like a lot of the people that are a generation younger than us don't know how to make something without having the exact same ingredients that the recipe says. They don't know how to substitute things in and out.
Yes. That is 100% for sure. People cannot, uh and I don't know how to teach them except on my other channel, I show how I do this. But I just show people, "Oh, wait, I thought I had chicken defrosted and I didn't. What am I gonna do? Okay, I take the chicken out and I throw it in a bucket of water, hot water, and get it defrosted in a half an hour before dinner. Or I'll have canned chicken. Or I've got a rotisserie chicken that I forgot about and I threw in the freezer." You know? So, learning how to substitute is, I would say it's right up there with cooking from your pantry. I would say it's probably number 2. I mean, the cooking from your pantry is 1, not using leftovers is number 2, then maybe number 3 is substituting, because really the biggest way you're gonna save money is by substituting, because you've got to get it out of your mind, "Oh, I had planned spaghetti and meatballs tonight. I thought I had meatballs in the freezer and I don't have any. Now what am I gonna do? Okay, well, we're just gonna have to go out to eat." No. I mean, if it really got desperate, we would have cereal and toast or oatmeal or pancakes or something. And so you a and I've been saying this more often, but I have never once, ever, in being on my own, let's see, I've been on my own 45 or so years now, out of high school. I have never once said, "I'm too tired. I'm just gonna go out to eat." Ever. I have never done that. I just don't feel good. I'm gonna go out to eat. Because in my mind, I equate that $40 with, if let's say you're a working mom, you make $20 an hour. After you pay your taxes and all of your expenses, you're bringing home $10 an hour. That means you just had to work 4 hours for that takeout that's $40, which is probably 50 or 60 now.
Right. Exactly.
5 to 6 hours if you're going 50 to 60 for something everybody ate in 15 minutes. To me, not even close to being worth it. That's just not even remotely worth it. I can't imagine killing myself 6 hours working for something that my family's gonna eat in 15 minutes. It doesn't even make sense to me. And so, that's how I think differently as far as preparing the meals, and really it's all about the mindset, because in my mind, we'll have a bowl of cereal, or if I don't have milk, we'll have a bowl of oatmeal. Or if we don't have oatmeal, we'll have cream of wheat or cream of rice, or we'll just have rice cereal or something. And so I think those substitutions really are probably one of the top things for saving money aside from throwing away food, because once you learn to substitute, your possibilities are endless.
It's funny that you keep mentioning cereal. I don't really talk about it very often, but the day I was in labor, like labor, to have my baby, it was a Sunday morning, and we were debating about if we were gonna go to church or not go to church, and I sing on the praise team, so it was, like, calling to, like, I'm not gonna be there to sing for sure, like, that's not happening. But it was the day before my husband's payday, and we were trying to figure out, hospital or not hospital. Well, we had a toddler at home, and that they wanted cereal, and it was just like, "Well, we're out of milk, and it's the day before payday," and it's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, am I making pancakes or are we going to the hospital?" And it was just this whole thing, and since that day, I've learned how to have shelf-stable milk on the pantry shelves all the time, and I've really realized even talking with, like, moms groups and stuff, cereal and milk is, like, such a thing that you can always feed your kids and they're happy, like,
Yeah.
the power's out, cereal and milk, have some shelf-stable milk. And we only buy Cocoa Puffs, so it's, like, Mike's favorite, twice a year, and we have 2 boxes, and I whenever we're going to buy the 2nd box for the year and rotating them out, then I let him eat the Cocoa Pebbles. But it's like a special treat, but it's emergency preparedness, I like to have it in the cabinet.
Well, and people get so upset about mentioning cereal. There is so many other ways of eating cereal aside from what people think of. It doesn't have to be Fruit Loops, and I don't even know what cereal is anymore because we just don't buy it that much, but Fruit Loops and Fruity Pebbles or, Apple Jacks, whatever. There's well, I know there's some controversy with it, but there's Cheerios, which is oats. There is Rice Chex, which I'm gluten-free. That's what I eat when I need a snack. I'll eat that instead of popcorn. Or, there's Rice Puffs, there's Corn Flakes, there's lots of good cereal that is perfectly fine for you to eat. Even if you had it every morning, it would be okay. But I think people have gotten so obsessed with healthy, they can't get it out of their head that, "Wait a minute, you've got your milk, which is your protein, you've got your, carb there, throw in a piece of fruit, a banana, apple, orange, and you've got a complete meal there. It's really okay. I give you permission to have cereal if you need to. Just, don't go out to eat. Have a bowl of cereal. It's okay."
If I avoided takeout, then it's a win.
Yeah. And that's it. Avoid it at all costs.
I'm diabetic and cereal does not like me. I've
Right.
tried it, so it's an issue for me, but, I still feed it to kiddos and Mike
Well, and
occasionally.
that's just it. We get the exception every time I say something like this, we get the exceptions, and I know you do too. "Well, I can't not 'cause of X, 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 X," whatever, X, Y, whatever. There's always the exception, but, like, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free. So, I will feed my husband and kids BLTs. I'll have a BL on a or BLT
Well, on a nail.
you know? And so I just adapt. I'm pre-diabetic also. I'm a ticking time bomb. So I know I have to be careful. So I just make little adjustments like that. And people get caught up in what you're saying and say, "Well, I'm diabetic." And I'm not saying you're doing this, but I get this comment all the time. "Well, I'm diabetic, so I can't eat X whatever." Well, you need to learn how to substitute. What can you eat? Can you eat, riced cauliflower instead of rice for your dinner? I actually really like cauliflower. So, for me, that's something that I really enjoy. If you don't like that, what else could you do? And so that goes back to the substituting thing. I actually wrote a gluten-free, dairy-free version of my Dining on a Dime cookbook because people kept saying, "Well, I'm gluten-free. You say you're gluten-free, but what do you eat?" And I'm like, "Well, I just use my regular cookbook. I just substitute." And finally, my assistant at the time, she's like, "Tara, you just gotta write the book because people can't they don't get it can't get it." But once you get the system of substituting in your head, then you don't have to worry about food security because I can just go into my pantry and this is what I have, this is what I can use, and it's no big deal to change it up if I need to.
Yeah, when all my kids are home, like, being a mom, cooking for everybody, it was, oh, dairy, gluten, raw sugar cane. We have some nut sensitivities in it, and I have a vegetarian in the family, and then I'm diabetic. So we were really learning all of the things for years there, and realizing that it didn't have to cost more. Like I learned how to keep the gluten-free bread in the freezer and only pull out, 2 slices at a time. And so, only the person that was gluten-free got the gluten-free bread because it was so expensive, at the time. And now I just learned that as I'm eating things in a different order, it doesn't spike my glucose as much. And so I can eat more protein first or even eat, pasta that has protein in it and eat a chicken breast first before I start eating the pasta. Then it's not spiking me as much. And learning things like, oh, well, we do put bread in the freezer all the time. Well, that changes the compounds of the bread. And, cooking the potatoes beforehand, cooking the rice beforehand, again, is changing the starches in them and how they affect me. So, some of these things that I've done over the years just to make sure that we had the food that we need are actually helping with my glucose spikes. And so it's been really interesting to see that those things work, and other people talking about them.
I always find that kind of fascinating how those things work when you start, researching it more and you're like, "Oh, it never occurred to me." Or like for me, I do the same thing with money. I turn everything into how many hours are you going to have to work for this? So like I've been really well, I said this a little bit earlier. I've been really sick lately and just I mean, I am not functioning at all. I was actually laying down before this interview thinking, "Oh my goodness, can I do this?" And I noticed I'm like, I'm getting on my older kids who are at home who know better, like, "Turn off the lights." I don't have the energy to do videos and just have it all being blown with the lights just being left on all the time, you know? But it's the same thing with food. Don't throw away the food. And so I turn it how grandma used to always say, "Turn off the lights." Well, it's the same thing with food. "Why are you throwing this food away?" "No, we're eating it. This is not bad. It's just leftovers." And of course, if it's 5 or 6 days old, yeah, you don't wanna give yourself food poisoning. I actually threw away 30 pounds. You're the first to hear this confession. 30 pounds of potato and pasta salad yesterday because I cooked for a graduation party, and my fridge got left open the night before. A bowl had slipped and got caught between the door, and I didn't know it, and I was like, "Our little town hospital would not be able to handle 120 people with food poisoning. They just would not, and it's 2 hours to the next biggest city. That would not be pretty." I was like, "You know what? I'm throwing away this 30 pounds," but I had a really hard time throwing that away because as fish we try to be very careful and not throw away, even the little crumbs of the tortilla chips is last night's taco salad. So, yeah, and once you get into that mindset, it's just, um, comes naturally or you just automatically do it once you start, thinking about it. It's just getting yourself to start thinking about it, I think that is the biggest problem for a lot of people. But when you go I'm sorry. I was just gonna say once you go, you just always do it.
I think it's so interesting. I did a lot of research before my TED Talk because my TED Talk was about food waste and how much people are throwing away. And the average family, like college age parents, like our age, they're spending $1,000 a month on groceries because they're used to still, cooking and shopping for that large family, but their kids have moved out and then they're so accustomed just throwing all the things away. But $1,000 and throwing away 40 to 60% of that, they're throwing away $400 to $600 a month, you know?
And then
It's just crazy.
translate that into the mom who's working, making $20 an hour. She's working a week and a half
Mhm.
for just the food they're throwing away. People do not let that sink in. You could literally take a week and a half off every single month,
Right.
every single month for just the food being thrown away.
Right.
And yet people are our age or, everybody it seems like, but especially our age, are absolutely exhausted and tired and worn out. And if they would just change little things like that,
Mhm.
it would just make your life so much more simpler. Like I said, we are completely debt free. My husband's laid up for 3 months. He can't go anywhere for 3 months because of his knee surgery, and it's not a big deal. I
Right.
mean, I get we work at home, I understand, our situation's a little bit different, but even if he couldn't do any because his work has been very limited because of the drugs and stuff like that, so he's not quite all there, but even if he had to take off the full 3 months, we would be okay. And people don't understand what a burden lifted off of your shoulders
Right.
that is to not have to worry about that. You had a baby. Okay, take off 3 months. It's okay. You can do that because you're not throwing away literally throwing away your paycheck.
Exactly, exactly.
No.
We finally besides for a house, we just moved here, but besides for a house, we're debt free and just that weight that we're not worrying about other people or phone calls, and we've definitely been through our medical struggles over the years that have overtaken our finances at times, but to be able to get control of those 4 walls, like Dave Ramsey said, is really what changed everything for us. We made sure our mortgage was paid and our power never was turned off even though I was laid up for 2 years and was bringing in half the income and, focusing on basing our grocery budget per person is how we really survived. So we based that way back 20 years ago as $100 per person when we had our kids at home. And that was what we could afford. Like, that's why we picked that number. That's what we could afford. And my husband has consistently, back in the day, we had it in, cash envelopes, but we don't do that anymore. We put our grocery money into a separate debit account that's only for groceries. It's only for ingredients. And that money every single payday goes into that grocery account, and I always know that it's there and I don't have to worry about it, and it's just building that food security. But even when this week when I went grocery shopping, um, I ended up spending, $50 less than our $270 grocery budget. That goes into a carryover amount, and that's how we buy half of a beef every 2 years, so the money is there, I'm not trying to get it from other places to do it, and, it
Yeah,
just
people don't understand that concept. So, because that's exactly what I do. So, people are like, "Well, wait a minute. You say you spend $400 a month, but you just spent $600 on a stockpile because it's Thanksgiving and they've got flour and sugar and butter and brown sugar and powdered sugar and condensed milk and all these things that I use, well, mostly for my recipe channel. But, they had all these things on sale and people are like, "Well, wait, you said you spent $400, but you just spent $600." No, I spent $150 last month.
Right, exactly.
So that 250 goes to the next month, and then when they have on, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Memorial Day, 4th of July, the big Labor Day, those are usually the 6 or so big sale days. Then I go stock up if I'm low on something, and I don't have to try and find the money because the money's there because I haven't been spending money on butter for the last 6 months. That extra money has been saving. So a lot of people don't understand how we do that. So I thought I'd explain that because people are like, "Wait, I don't get how you did that." So yeah.
I actually show all of our grocery hauls on my channel and then break down like what I was thinking when I was at the grocery store. Like this time I didn't need to get milk, so I got extra cheese, but it was still kind of in that same category. It didn't go for like Oreos or something, it stayed in a healthy kind of thing to have in your house, and it that's just the way that we've been doing it, but I'm, like, realizing now that I've been posting all of my grocery hauls for 5 years now here on the channel. In July, it'll be 5 years, like, people can really see the receipts of
Mm.
doing this month after month and how I'm able to, put a little bit aside and, think about, those rainy days and, have extra things for food security for longer term, if I can
Yeah.
get, extra vigor.
Have you noticed if your bill's gone up a lot, or has it
I've
the
noticed
same?
I've noticed that I bought less bacon.
Yeah. No.
But, instead of just getting a package of bacon, then I will now get a package of bacon. I'll put wax paper in between like every 4 slices and then put it in the freezer. So we still have it, but we don't have it as often.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last time I bought bacon was a year ago, and my grocery store sells it in boxes, like 40-pound boxes, and I can get it for like $1.50 a pound that way, but I have to go and repackage it then. And people say, "Oh, is that really worth the time?" Actually, it is. I sat and figured it up. I did it with boneless, skinless chicken breasts on my channel about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, and for 20 minutes worth of work, I saved, I think it was $150.
Yeah.
Okay, so translate that, that's like what, $350 an hour you earned? I don't know anybody who earns $350 an hour or however much it is, but, it's, that's one way that I encourage myself when I do these things and I don't feel like doing it, is I will literally time myself and say, "Wait a minute, I just processed 40 pounds of bacon, saved myself all this money. Whoa, I just earned $350 an hour," or whatever it is, and so, people, if they're feeling discouraged, should turn around the numbers and pay yourself, and you can say, "Well, honey, how was your work today?" "Yeah, well, I made $350 an hour." But they don't see it like that, and that's how we've been able to have really nice things on a really low income our whole entire married life, was because I look at it as I'm not being cheap. I'm looking at it as we don't have to work so much
Right.
to do that, and, like, when my kids were little, I couldn't there's no possible way I could work. We lived on one income, and for a lot of years, it was $6 an hour, $9 an hour, and even in the '90s and 2000s, that was not very much money.
I remember I used to get paid $7.50 when my husband was in college and we got paid once a month.
Yeah.
And still we had to go to another state to go grocery shopping because we were at Wazoo. And so you go to Idaho to go grocery shopping and it
Yep.
was a big deal. But
Mhm.
just last month I had bronchitis for 6 weeks. And so
Oh, no.
I thought I was doing better and we went grocery shopping and I had a little bit of energy and we went grocery shopping that day. The next day I ended up in the ER. Like just I came back with a vengeance, just trying to go grocery shopping, like just was too much for me, and they finally gave me steroids. I didn't wash my produce for 4 days, like, I was totally laid up, and then we were, like, looking at these oranges that were, like, starting to get moldy in the bag, and, here we have 0 produce waste normally, and just Mike, instead of, like, being frustrated with it, he's like, "It just shows you that your systems work." When you take that time, to be able to do it, we really do have, 0 food waste most of the time, and unless I'm in the ER, I can give myself a little
Well,
bit of grace.
and actually, I wanna address that, because if people are ultra frugal, that's great. I'm glad you're ultra frugal, that's good, but we have to give ourselves a lot of grace when we have those times. Don't be so hard on yourself. I have been really sick for, mo actually probably years, even worse so than normal, and something's been wrong and can't figure it out. And I just had some tests done, and I've got a couple of infections that I didn't know that I had, that I've been combating for years, that I've gotta get cleared up. And I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute. Don't be so hard on yourself, Tara. If you actually went to Walmart last week after Mike had surgery, I am not feeling good. and I just did a pickup, and I got nothing on sale. I paid full price for everything. You know,
But it wasn't takeout.
but it wasn't takeout. It was actually food. It was all the I did, I don't do name brands, I do the store brands for 90% of my stuff, and I still was very frugal in my shopping, and I got, like, 4 weeks worth of groceries for $300. But we have to be, not so hard on ourselves when we're in those situations, and I know a lot of moms are, and so I just wanna tell moms, it's okay. You've just had a baby, or you've got a baby and a toddler, or,
Mhm.
you've got 3 or 4 kids under 4 or whatever. I have actually lived it and been there, and it is okay to buy the chicken nuggets if you need to, or buy the backs I know boxed macaroni and cheese gets a big, you know everybody gets upset about it, but it's okay to buy those things if you need to. It's not like it's an everyday thing. And, you gotta go for 80% of the time if your life is just chaotic. And so I'm with you on, you see those things and you feel guilty, but you gotta give yourself some grace.
Yeah. I normally say, yeah, 80% of the time I'm trying to do everything I can, and 20% is giving myself a little bit of grace and not having mom guilt or whatever it is. But talking about being really frugal. So we are really frugal when it comes to the food that we're bringing into our house and trying to make sure that we are having the best ingredients we have in our house. But we're kind of in another situation now where we have a little bit of financial freedom and, things. We sold our house and we ended up like in a 80-year-old house that costs less, so we have some fun things. I could go waste money at the grocery store if I wanted to now and not have to concentrate so much. But I think it's so important to teach this. But last year, when we were in the middle of remodeling our house and listing our house, Mike gave me this challenge. He's like, we can set this money aside if we don't go out to eat like this month. We can just set this money aside. And that was in January. And I was like, okay, like I can do that if you'll let me, buy that, for new furniture for the house. I really wanted a new couch. When we moved, our couch was 20 years old. But what I didn't tell him is I actually found a really good deal in the winter time of something that I wanted to do in August for his birthday. And I ended up not going out to eat for a couple months, and we were tucking that money aside, and we rented a Lamborghini for his birthday. And like it was so cool. We got to drive from, the Seattle area over here to Eastern Washington, but we got to enjoy some of that money that just would have been wasted in a takeout. And, I did get it on a winter sale, all the things, and then used it in August. Like I planned really accordingly for it. But, just knowing that having financial freedom because you're controlling your finances, then you can actually do some fun things too.
Well, and it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay. You know, um, we have a very nice house. We have a really nice house. And we worked our butts off to have a really nice house. This house is no car payments for 30 years. This house is no student loans for 30 years. This house is no credit card interest for 30 years. But we really enjoy our house. Our last house that we lived in was just a nightmare. It was in town and a cul-de-sac, and we had 20 barking dogs behind us all the time, and I was losing my mind. And when we moved here, I was like, "I have to have someplace quiet." And we found this place, and we were like, "It's in town, but it's quiet. It's like we're in the country, but we're not. This is absolutely perfect." And we spent more than we wanted to on the house, but we had the money to do it. And we had spent 30 years being frugal with all these things. You can treat yourself just like with the Lamborghini. It's okay. We've taken ourselves on more trips lately because the kids are gone and now we have extra money that we've been saving up because now we're, earning more and all of that. And so you got to give yourself some rewards also,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Now, don't go to the other extreme where you're still not funding your retirement or you're not, getting your ducks in order. Make sure you have everything in order first so you're not one of these people that you see and they're like, "Well, I retired and at 80 I'm having to work." That's just I can't imagine how awful that would be.
Right.
And it's one thing if you've had, a medical crisis or something like that. I totally understand that. But a lot of people like that, they could have been saving for their retirement, but they were buying purses, they were getting their nails done, and they admit that. And so that's where I think it's good to have a happy balance, but enjoy what you have, but why would you literally throw money in the trash?
Right.
You know? I just can't do that, but
We had graduated with a lot of debt, and then my medical stuff, like, right at the beginning of everything, we ended up in a lot of debt, and it's taken us a long time to get out of it, but I love that we are out of it, and we can really, like, see the other side of it and know that we don't have to put groceries on a credit card or have to get
yeah.
gas on a credit card, and, we're planning for these things and budgeting, and we've been doing it for 15 years now, that really living within our means and then getting to enjoy those fun things. Like, I get to live now near my kiddos again and, change our legacy of being able to see them again all of the time where they were 4 hours away.
Yeah, and, we did the same thing, like, for us, it's always medical stuff with me trying to feel better, or we've had a couple of kids that were really sick, and, it's medical stuff is hard. Oh, don't even get me started on that, but
Mhm.
let me tell you, it's a relief in 2024 when we had $60,000 in medical bills unexpectedly, and we were like, "Uh" we literally had to pay it, right then. This just wasn't something that we could just blow off, and it was so nice. Okay, yeah, it set us back from what our plans were for that year, but we had the money, we were able to take care of it, everything was okay, and we didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
We didn't have to worry about where we were gonna come up with this huge chunk of change because we were so frugal, and so it gives you a lot of peace of mind that people really until you have that peace of mind, you can't understand how peaceful it
Right.
to have that. You really can't. Like Mike and I don't know that we've ever, I hate to say never, but I don't remember ever having an argument over money. We just don't because we we're both on the same page. We both want to stay out of debt. We both want to be frugal. He's almost in some ways more frugal than I am on some things. And I'm like, dear, it's okay. No. And so, it helps if you and your husband are on the same page. It really does. And if you're not, then, that's of course you need to get into some counseling because really that will make your life so much easier once you guys are on the same page and then you can, you know, have a reasonable budget but still have some fun, too once you get all your debt taken care of and all of that. So, yeah.
We sit down every season unless something comes up, but, like, seasonally, we sit down and decide what our household budget is. So the grocery budget always stays the same, but, if we're saving for Christmas or saving to go do something or, like, my husband's saving for, tires on his truck, then we sit down and decide, like, okay, we have this much that we can use for basic household things, which is like toilet paper and shampoo, the basic kind of things. And then we have another budget of, okay, this month we get to add a little bit of fun money into, this category. And I remember our 20th anniversary, we had $20 to spend. And I was really happy that we had $20 to spend. I thought it was, like symbolic, but we got milkshakes and we went and watched the sunset, and
Mhm.
it's still one of my favorite anniversaries that we had. It wasn't a big deal. And we lived within our means and, we still got to spend time with each other. And that was the season we were in, it was $20 for our 20th anniversary.
Yeah, people think it has to be complicated, but it does not have to be complicated, I was just thinking about, like, with graduation parties. You have a lot of friends that are doing graduation parties. I was like, you don't have to have a full-blown meal for a graduation party.
Right,
You don't. You can just have cake. It's okay, and it can be homemade cake at that,
right,
or off the clearance or cake off clearance thing,
right.
and so if I think people need to stop making things so complicated, and you will realize you'll have so much more peace when you're not overspending and you're not over planning. I mean, part of this is planning. Moms are getting so worn out planning these huge parties, planning huge anniversary, trips and stuff like that. when maybe it'd be better just to, go and get a milkshake, really. Yeah, let's just go sit and enjoy it, you know? So, I totally get it, yeah, I think people need to simplify a lot. It's gotten crazy how complicated we make all of our parties and every occasion now, but
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody just is trying to outdo each other and not just your neighbors, like everybody else on social media, and it's just it's
Well, and
hard as
social media is a good and a bad thing because, yeah, it can give you some really good ideas. I think that's true. But at the same time, you have to keep in perspective, not everyone needs a charcuterie board for every holiday
r
with 15 different kinds of deli meats and 20 different cheeses and 10 different fruits. You don't need all of that. And I think if people would simplify it, mom would be happier. She wouldn't be yelling at everybody on the holiday. She wouldn't be upset that nobody's helping her and everybody's like, "Well, we don't wanna do this. You're the one that's wanting to do this." You know? So, it's gotten to the point where we just started we never ate out, so we would go out to eat for Thanksgiving because I was like, "I am tired. I am a cookbook author. I do cooking videos all the time. I don't wanna cook Thanksgiving dinner. I've already cooked Thanksgiving dinner in October for all my videos. I really don't care. We've been eating on it for 2 weeks already." So we would go to a buffet for Thanksgiving. The kids can have all the pizza they want. Mom can have steak, dad can have his chicken, and it was great. My kids loved going to the buffet for Thanksgiving, and it cost just about the same amount as Thanksgiving dinner, if people would make it complicated, complicated Thanksgiving dinner, and so, anyway, yeah, simplifying it really helps, I think, a lot.
I just learned over the years for Thanksgiving that I don't invite people that I don't talk to the rest of the year. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to spend 3 days cooking for somebody that only shows up on a holiday, and I don't talk to you the rest of the year. Like, if I'm not in your life, I'm not hosting 30 people for Thanksgiving, you know? And that's really helped over the last few years. That kinda started with my spinal cord injury when I couldn't. I had surgery in November, and so I was like, "Okay, we're gonna make this smaller. I'm gonna teach the kids to do things, and I'm gonna sit there and tell them how to do it." But then the next year when I was healthy, it was like, that was kinda nice. Just having us
Yeah.
all.
Well, and even, like, my kids love those canned, crescent rolls.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm talking the canned ones? I never buy them because 'cause they're expensive. So I'm like, "Wait a minute, why am I making homemade dinner rolls for Thanksgiving?"
Mhm.
They like the canned crescent rolls probably better just because it's something they never get. Why don't I just get 3 cans of those and we'll be done in 5 minutes with the dinner rolls? So, yeah, so I do simplify things a lot, and a lot of that has to do with me being sick. I just literally cannot physically do it. I just can't physically do it. And so I've had to adapt. But what's happening is people are working so hard, spending so much money and all this stuff that now moms are really getting worn out. They're getting worn down. And if they would just simplify and stop making things so complicated, it would make your life so much less stressful. You wouldn't be yelling at the kids. You wouldn't be screaming at your husband because you're tired. You wouldn't be fighting about finances because you're spending all your money on all this stuff. And so it seems like we want to save for food security, but it actually goes into way, way more, areas of your life than just realizing you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat today.
Right. It's
So,
that weight that's on your shoulders
mhm,
of stressing
yeah,
about it all day long
yeah,
and worrying.
yeah. Did not mean to turn this into a psychological evaluation of
I think
my
it's good.
And, it's true. People just don't I guess I realized I'm so out of the loop because that's the way I grew up with my mom, but when I started seeing my neighbors in Colorado and we were talking to them, and I had a neighbor, absolutely loved her, but she was killing herself at her job and it was making her physically ill. And I said, "Well, why don't you sell your car and just get a used car that's a lot cheaper?"
Mhm.
"Oh, I can't do that. I don't want somebody else's germs in my car." Yet she had no problem going to hotels for Disney. And I said, But you go to Disney World and there's people's germs there. Oh, well, that's different. And I said, "Do you realize you could take off a year and a half of work?
Mm.
A year and a half. It's taking you to pay for this car. By the time you pay for all your interests and all the car and everything for your job, you could take off a full year and a half of work, not have all that stress if you didn't have this car." And she was like, "Really?"
Right. Yeah.
Run the numbers. And it goes way deeper than just saving money on groceries. It really does. I think it really groceries is just the tip of the iceberg of what's affected when you save on groceries. It
That
sounds
when you
crazy,
start getting
but
control of things. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a matter of getting control of your finances, and it really starts with groceries. And that's partly why I started living on a dime, because I noticed groceries was where people were spending them a lot of money, and it was the number one thing that they could easily control.
Mhm.
You could easily control that, but people just didn't either know how to or didn't want to. But, yeah, I think it's probably at the top of one of the places you can cut to help save money is on your grocery bill.
Yeah, at one point between Mike and I, we were working 5 jobs. Like, we had our main job, I owned a housekeeping company, I was a cheer coach and got paid for that. Like, we had side hustles, all the things, and it just felt like we were just wasting it all at the grocery store and stopping at the grocery store every day and didn't realize how much those little grocery shopping trips were really costing us until I really started tracking it, and I was like, "Okay, we can get control of this and cut down our jobs and actually spend time with our family." Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, or when you have a life crisis happen, you're not caught off guard. We had to say a similar thing happen. My niece's dad died and she had to come live with us. Well, we were driving kids in Colorado. We were driving kids 7.5 hours a day between my husband, my son, and I. We were spending 7.5 hours a day driving kids to school in 3 different cities.
Wow.
We were in court. His parents took us to court for it's a long story, but anyway, his parents ended up taking us to court over the whole thing. So we were in court. We literally couldn't work for
Mhm.
months. And we didn't really worry about money because we had everything in place. We could deal with all the crises that were happening all at once during that 18 months. And not having a car payment because our cars were all paid off and not worrying about our car getting repossessed was glorious.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
having to
we have
worry about
15-year-old cars, and I
yeah,
don't even want a new one.
no. And it's just such a weight that people are carrying, and I feel bad because it doesn't have to be that stressful. And I feel really bad for people that's why I do this, because they don't understand it doesn't have to be this way. And so, it's way more than groceries, but it is something that is very controllable, and you can have control over it and start, snowballing that into paying
Right.
off your other stuff, and then you don't have so much stress.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I am so glad we got to have this conversation, and I really hope it touches the hearts of the people that are supposed to see this and know that other people are struggling and got out of those hard seasons of life. But I just really thank you for being here on my Cross Legacy channel. And I do want to mention my book, and then I'll let you mention all your things. That my book is The Zero Waste Produce Guide. It's this really pretty full color book that goes through 75 produce items, A to Z, to teach you how to keep them fresh for weeks so you're not throwing away all of your groceries. And we have a discount code for that that is DIME15 for your followers that might be checking me out for the first time. But make sure that you subscribe to my channel. We have 3 new videos that go up every single week to help you save money on groceries.
So I wrote the Dining on a Dime cookbooks. I've got 3 of them, volume 1, volume 2, and then my gluten-free edition. And my channel is Living on a Dime, so go check us out. Yeah, I try to put out 3 videos a week also. Sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less. It just depends on how I'm feeling. But
And what is your second channel?
so my other channel is Super Easy Recipes, And that I try to post every single day on super easy recipes. And that's not extreme frugal. Just a heads up for people. It is using more canned items, more, canned biscuits and stuff like that. Because a lot of people, I realized, they're overwhelmed with scratch cooking, even though scratch cooking really doesn't take any longer. Um, they just can't understand that. And so I made that channel just to get people cooking at home with
In the kitchen.
something just to get out of the restaurants. So, yeah, so it's super easy recipes is my other channel.
Well, we'll make sure that we list everything in the show notes so you can see it listed in the description for both of our channels. And I'm just so glad to meet somebody that really has changed my life and gave me hope during a really hard time in my life. And it's just really neat to be able to talk to you today.
Well, thank you. Well, I have to tell you, I found you on vacation. I wasn't supposed to be working. And I read and you popped up on my phone and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, she's just like us." Well, I was so happy when you wanted to do this because I was like, "Yes, a fellow frugalite." I don't know what we call ourselves,
Right?
but yeah.
I like that.
So
Yeah, this
thank you. I
has just been
appreciate
great. All right. Have a good day, and we will see you on both of our channels.
All right. Bye-bye.